Singer for Star Playhouse presents Dick Powell, Charles Boyer, David Niven, Ida Lupino.
How about a smile, Mrs. Severson?
Are there any other questions?
Dr. Severson, in addition to receiving the Clevenger Award, I understand you've been named director of the Haas-Wellborn Scientific Research Institute.
That is correct.
When do you take over your new duties?
The first of the month.
Did you have any idea you were being considered for the post?
None at all. It came as a complete surprise.
Was it the same with the Clevenger Award?
Very definitely. We were in Bombay at the time. As a matter of fact, both letters came within a week of each other.
You didn't happen to return by way of Kosan, did you?
Kosan?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we landed. We were there a few hours and then took off again.
Oh, you were lucky.
Lucky?
Yes, haven't you read the papers?
No.
Well, an epidemic has broken out there.
Epidemic of what?
Bubonic plague. Supposed to be the worst in modern times, in the Far East, that is.
Oh, no, I hadn't heard.
Well, the whole city's under quarantine. They're rushing in doctors, serum, medical supplies, everything.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Very sorry. Well, gentlemen, if you'd excuse me, I have another appointment.
Yes, certainly, Doctor. Thank you for your time, Dr. Severson.
Not at all. I appreciate your interest in coming.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Thanks, Ellen.
Did you think I'd give you away?
No, well, I didn't know.
There's not much left of us, Worth, but I guess there's that much.
Listen, don't talk that way.
Worth, I'm awfully tired.
Don't go.
There's nothing to talk about.
Please, Ellen, please. Look, I know that you...
Worth.
Yes?
I wasn't going to say this now, but I guess it doesn't matter.
Say what?
I'm through. I can't take it anymore.
What do you mean you're through?
I've been thinking about it for months now. I'm going away. I want a divorce.
Ellen, you don't know what you're saying.
I'm sorry, Worth. I'm sorry it should come like this and you should be hurt, but then I guess that's the whole thing. You haven't thought about us for so long you didn't even know what was happening.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Ellen, quit talking in riddles. If something has been happening, at least be specific about it.
How can I be? There's no specific time when a marriage begins to go bad. It just does, that's all. Dies a little in 100 ways you're not even aware of at the time.
Ellen, you're imagining something that doesn't exist.
For me, it does. Worth, I don't even know you anymore. It's like living in a house with a stranger. I can't live that way.
Wait. It's this affair at Kosan.
Yes, it's that. But it's also all the things that went before. I'm sorry, Worth.
But not now. Not at this time.
It isn't a very appropriate time, is it?
Oh, I didn't mean it that way, you know it.
We'll wait until everything's over. I don't want to embarrass you.
Well, I don't mind telling you I was more than a little nervous when we came in over the field. One motor gone, the other missing, but the pilot brought her in. Hardly a bump. A beautiful piece of flying.
How long will you be here, sir?
Oh, another day at least. They told me they had to fly in some part from Singapore.
By the way, do you know Dr. Justin Smith?
Justin Smith? No, I don't think so. Should I?
He's a health officer here, appointed by the native government. He tells me he was in your graduating class at college.
Oh, well, it was a large class. I can't quite place him.
Please, may I? Sorry if I startled you.
It's all right.
I knew your husband was here. I wanted to see him.
Well, he's in the next room if it's anything urgent.
Nothing urgent. I can wait. My name is Smith, Justin Smith. I'm a doctor, public health officer here. I knew your husband a long time ago. We were at Johns Hopkins together.
Oh, were you really? I wish I could get his attention. He'd be so glad to see
Please.
someone.
Perhaps I shouldn't have put it like that. What I meant was that we were merely in the same class. I don't think he'd remember me.
Of course he would.
No. You see, your husband was very brilliant even then. His friends were those on his own level. With me, well, I was one of the slow ones. I guess medicine's never been easy for me.
Shall we sit down? I'm sure Worth will be out shortly.
You know, this may sound strange, but I've always been proud that I was in the same class your husband was. When you're part of a group like that, you take on a kind of a reflected glory. And now with the Clevenger Award and the Haas-Welborn directorship.
Cigarette?
Thank you.
I don't think you have to bask in anyone's reflected glory, Doctor. I'm sure your job here is very important.
Not really. Any qualified physician could handle it.
To be where you're needed. What more could you ask?
Thank you.
Oh, Worth. I was just talking to an old classmate of yours.
Yes?
Smith, Justin Smith. I don't suppose you remember me.
Oh, yes. How are you, Doctor?
Well, thank you.
Are you practicing here?
Yes, he's health officer here at Colman.
How interesting.
I wanted to congratulate you on the Clevenger Award and the Haas-Welborn appointment.
Why, thank you.
I was hoping that while you were here, if you have time, of course, you might look in at my lab.
I'm sorry, but our time is pretty well budgeted. Well, my dear, I think we'd better try to find a taxi. It's been nice seeing you, Doctor.
I'm afraid you won't find a taxi at this hour. However, your hotel's only a short walk from here if you cut through the native quarter. Well, there's nothing to worry about as long as you're with me.
Oh.
These are my people. They all know me.
I'm sure it'll be all right, Worth.
Very well. Shall we go?
I'll get my coat.
Are you sure you know where you're taking us, Doctor?
Of course I do. Please don't be worried.
No, we're not. At least I'm not.
Doctor,
Yes, what is it, boy?
my father, he's sick. Please come.
You'll have to excuse me.
Well, what are we supposed to do?
If you'll just wait here a moment.
Alone? Here in this section?
Doctor, believe me, there's no danger at all.
Come, please, Doctor, hurry.
Worth, what's the matter?
Well, I think it's obvious what's the matter. This man forces himself on us, leads us heaven only knows where.
He was only trying to help us.
But I don't need his help. Come, we're getting out of here. I think the boulevard is this way.
No, we can't just leave like this without saying anything.
I said we're going.
Dr. Service.
Oh, we're leaving, Dr. Smith. I'm sure we can find our way.
Doctor, would you mind stepping inside a moment?
I beg your pardon.
I wonder if you'd take a look at the patient. I think... Well, I'm not quite sure of my own diagnosis.
Well,
Worth.
very well.
No, Mrs. Sanderson.
Well, I'm certainly not going to let my wife stand out here alone.
I'll have the boy wait with him. Lucy, you stay here with Mrs. Severson. What do you think? Do you suppose it could be?
Could be what?
Plague. I'm not familiar with it outside of the textbook symptoms. I've never encountered it before. But there's the rigor in the neck and limbs, high temperature, eyes extremely sensitive to light, swelling in the lymphatics.
No, it's not plague.
But he has all the classical symptoms.
They are also the symptoms of any number of fevers.
But the buboes...
I think you'd better brush up on your differential diagnosis, Doctor. This is not plague. I've encountered it personally, and I know what I'm talking about. If you treat it as anything but lymphangitis, you'll be doing both yourself and your patient a disservice.
I'm sure you're right. It must be lymphangitis. Still, if you don't mind, I'd like to stay with him and...
Apparently, you don't agree with me.
No, it isn't that. It's my business to be here. Whatever the man has, he's sick, and... Thank you for looking in. I needed some sort of reassurance.
It's quite all right.
I'll have the boy take you back to your hotel.
Yes, I want to charter a plane. No, that's too late. I've absolutely got to be in Hong Kong by 9 to make my connection. But it's only a 2-hour flight. Surely you... All right. The sooner the better. Oh, one more thing. Send a car here to the hotel to pick us up. We'll be ready in an hour. Right.
Worth,
Yes?
why are we leaving?
Because we're leaving, that's all.
Or is it because... Well, I mean, does it have anything to do with Dr. Smith or something that happened while you two were together?
It hasn't anything to do with him. Why do you ask such questions?
Don't get so upset, Worth. What was it?
What was what?
That man back there in the shack, what was wrong with him?
Nothing. Nothing serious at any rate. Why?
I just wondered. Thought you both looked a little strange when you came out.
There was nothing to it. The doctor thought he had a case of bubonic plague on his hands.
Plague?
Yes. Any intern would have known better.
What was it?
Lymphangitis. A clear case of it.
Quite sure.
Of course I'm sure. What's the matter with you?
Nothing. Only once in Boston, when you gave a paper on plague recurrences, I remember you said a completely accurate diagnosis was difficult without bacteriological tests.
Are you suggesting I don't know my own business?
No, I'm just... Oh, forget it. Sure you know what you're doing. It's just that everything happened so suddenly. It almost seems as though we're running away from something we shouldn't be running from.
Suppose you let me worry about that.
I heard the radio before we left Hong Kong.
You're still not making sense.
You mean you didn't hear it?
I didn't hear anything. You know, I was busy up to the moment we left. How? What about the radio?
It was from Khorasan.
All right, it was from Khorasan. What about it?
The city's under quarantine. They said it was plague. You knew that's what it was. You knew it that night. Why did you go?
Let's forget it, Helen.
No, I've got to know why. You saw a man who was sick and you turned away. You knew what was wrong with him and you lied to Dr. Smith and you ran away. You...
Please, Helen, get hold of yourself.
I'll try. But you've got to talk to me. You've got to explain. If you were just another doctor, maybe I could understand, but you're not Worth. You've always been one of the dedicated ones. More than anything, I know what being a doctor means to you, and then suddenly everything smashes up. That's why I'm frightened, and I don't know what's happening to you or to me. That's why you've got to tell me.
There's nothing to tell. I made a mistake, a wrong diagnosis. That could happen to anyone.
Must you lie to me, too?
All right, suppose I knew it was plague. What was I supposed to do? Stay there like some hack medic and fight it? Or catch it myself?
Worth, you're a doctor.
As you say, there are doctors and doctors. I happen to be in a somewhat different category from your friend Smith. I'm sure even you will recognize that my job at Haswellburn is a trifle more important to the field of medicine than chasing a few bugs in a pest hole. As far as contributions to medicine go, I believe the Clevenger Award about answers that question. You've always been realistic, Ellen. You might try to be right now. Believe me, I hate to say this, but it is simply a case of expendability. Who is more important in terms of future contribution, Smith or Severson? You see, there is only one answer. I don't pretend it was an easy decision or a heroic decision, but it was the only one.
final scene takes place in Bombay, in one of the labs you worked in. We fade out then, leaving the audience with the feeling that this is the fitting triumph to a life dedicated to the service of your fellow men. Well, how does it sound to you, Doctor?
Worth? Mr. Kennedy wants to know if you approve the script.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. It's very good.
We've got Edward Storrs for your role in the dramatic portion. I think you'll like him.
I'm sure I will.
Margaret Anders will play you, Mrs. Severson. Roughly the first 18 to 20 minutes of the show will be devoted to the dramatization of your work. Then we'll have the presentation of the award, and after that, your acceptance speech. Oh, by the way, you'll be interested in this. We got the word this morning. The show is going to be televised nationally.
I see. Where were you?
I picked up my reservation.
What time are you?
Not until 10:40.
Are you going to...
Yes, I'll be at the studio. I'll also be at the reception afterward. No one will have to know about us.
Ellen, don't you think that after the show we might sit down quietly and talk this over? We've been under such a strain.
There's nothing more to talk over.
Please, Ellen, cancel the reservation. After the show is over, we might settle down again, and perhaps things might look different to you.
Are you going through with it?
What do you mean?
Are you really going through with it?
Of course I am.
How can you? I don't understand. How can you possibly?
Because I can, and I am, that's why. Can't you get it through your head? I've earned this. I've earned every bit of it. All my life I've been working for something like this. I didn't coast into it. I came up the hard way. Do you think it was easy at City Hospital? Even after I was made chief of staff? And when I finally got into research, what about the tests and experiments? 872 failures before we came through with it. 16 years of my life failing and driving myself back once more for another try. Sure, I made it. One day I made it after all the anxiety and self-torture that went before. I made it, and for the first time things began to break for us. I knew what it was to win for the first time in my life. You don't know what it means, Ellen. You've always been contented with what you had. But I wasn't. I was always hungry for what I've got now. What I'm going to get publicly tonight. And you say, am I going through with it? Of course I am. I've earned it. It's coming to me, and I'm going to take it, no matter what.
No matter what?
That's exactly right.
And what about Dr. Smith?
I'm sorry about it, but it can't be helped. Look here, Len. I've given my life to medicine. I've given more than 1 million Smith could ever give.
You might read that.
Dr. Wiley, any sign of...
No, we've checked everywhere.
Then we'll have to get someone to accept the award for Severson.
I don't know who I can
Just
get.
have him say I'm accepting in the name of Dr. Severson, who has been unavoidably detained.
All right, I'll see what...
Oh, there he is now.
You'd better take your seats, gentlemen.
Dr. Severson, where have you been?
We've been phoning all over. What happened?
We'll have to hurry. We're almost done.
And so it is that the story of Dr. Worth Severson, which ended that day in Bombay, has its more fitting and complete ending with us here tonight. Dr. Severson? It is my great honor to present to Dr. Severson this most distinguished of all awards, the James Clevenger Award for Distinguished Service in the field of medical science.
Many years ago, when I graduated from medical school, there was a man in my class named Smith. I didn't know him at the time. In the intervening years, we each made our own particular ways in our profession, not knowing each other. My way was summed up tonight in the drama you saw. It ended with this award.
Stand by for something. This isn't the speech he prepared.
The way that Dr. Smith followed led him at last to a far eastern city called Colman. That's where we met, less than 2 weeks ago. Dr. Smith had not been what we would call a successful doctor. He was a public health officer there, appointed by the native government. It was a very obscure post, but in his way, as best as he could, he was carrying on the functions and the deeply hallowed traditions of a physician. One night we met. We both were called to the bedside of a native who was desperately ill. The diagnosis of Dr. Smith was correct, but because he was uncertain of it and because he was inclined to defer to me, he sought my advice. I misled him. Yes, deliberately. I was in a hurry to return to the States to take over another assignment and to accept this award, which I'm afraid meant more to me than anything else. There were perhaps other motivations, but these at the time were the important ones. So I returned, and Dr. Smith remained behind. Before I came here tonight to accept the Clevenger Award, I came across this item in the paper. It was lost in the account of the plague epidemic that struck Colman. One of the casualties of the epidemic was Dr. Justin A. Smith, a public health employee of the government, the only doctor in the city at the time of the outbreak. Well, an honor was given me tonight which I cannot accept. If I could accept it, if it were mine to give, I would want it to serve as a memorial to Justin A. Smith, a man who never forgot what it means to be a doctor. Of course, how you finally dispose of this award, gentlemen, is up to you.